All right, now that I'm recording. And all right. Okay, I'll accept people as they come in. So hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is the AI dev community's first developer community meeting. So let's kick it right off. First things first, I'll start off with the agenda for today, or for this evening. We're gonna do an intro to the AI developer community. We're gonna speak out on some of the suggested learning topics that we want you guys to know coming into this. That'll help you. And we're going to talk about the tools that we're going to use in the AI dev community. We're going to talk about competitions, the rules and rewards. We're going to talk about what is AI and a sneak peek at the next developer community meeting. So here at the AI developer community, we have 3 goals for this semester. We're going to be teaching you the basics of some of the areas of AI, classification and regression, computer vision, natural language processing, and time series and sequence data. Area. We want to encourage members to learn on their own. We don't want to spoon feed you the data and then it goes in one ear and out the other and then you don't learn anything. The real way for you to learn is by yourself. And we really want to curate that in this community. And our final goal is to display the practical uses of AI. We really want projects for the solution challenge this coming year to feature AI. So we really want to showcase that it's actually pretty easy to use AI nowadays. So with that, any questions so far? Yes, of course the Java night is late. So any questions so far? If there are none, I'll keep going.
Which is your favorite area?
My favorite area? Of course, it has to be natural language processing.
Yes, sir. It's my
Yes,
boy
sir.
right there. Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions? All right. So let's keep going. So suggested learning, if you want to excel. This is what we really recommend you have going into these meetings. Not so much these last 2, these are just supplemental, but this one is essential. You need to know the Python programming language. Now, I have already done a workshop on this topic on introducing Python, but it turns out I probably didn't record it. So if you do need help on this, I got you. But I would recommend for this free code camp. And if you're not really into YouTube videos, there's a couple of Python books that I have that I can send to you. If you DM me on Discord, use my username. I'll definitely send those to you. Some linear algebra, we're gonna need this for when we talk about neural networks, and we're trying to explain how they work with the matrices. It's gonna be kind of difficult if you don't have a little bit of the fundamentals in matrix operations in linear algebra. And I also recommend Andrew NG's lectures. And for those of you who do not know Andrew NG, he is the founder of deeplearning.ai, which is a pretty big AI company. So you should definitely check this out. I wouldn't recommend anyone else, but Andrew NG, he's got your back when it comes to theory. So that's some of the suggested learning we have. I'll send this link in the Discord chat after this. Questions? Yeah.
So if for example, I know Java, is it a big learning curve between Java and Python that you know of?
No.
Python is way easier, dog.
Yeah. But Python is really simple. It's closer to pseudocode. It's way closer to pseudocode than any other language I know. So yeah, it's really simple to pick up. You could probably pick it up in like a week. And if you're really dedicated, in a day, or if you're really, really dedicated, in an afternoon. So yeah, it's pretty simple.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, I'll keep going then. Tools. So there's 3 tools that we're gonna be using this semester. The most obvious one, Stack Overflow. For those of you who do not know about how Stack Overflow works, there are numbers or tags to these questions and answers. So in the future, when I'm going to go into like the practical side of using AI, I'm going to be linking to these tags, these Stack Overflow tags. And all you need to do is copy and paste the tag into Stack Overflow, and you'll go back to the question. So when I say something like, oh, check this tag for how to, let's say, create a pandas data frame, you could just input the tag in Stack Overflow, and the question and answer will pop up. For those of you that didn't know, that's pretty handy, trust me. Another tool that we're going to be using, Google Collaboratory, or aka Colab. I'll show you guys how that looks now. Is what it is. It's what we call a notebook software. So the difference between a notebook and, let's say, a regular Python script or any script code is that the notebooks are separated into code blocks. And in these code blocks, they have their own output. So let's say we wanted to put hello world here. This is a code block, by the way. This is the hello world of Python. You would run this code block and it would output hello world or whatever the output is in the code block itself. Now, this is really handy, especially when you're trying to like look at how variables are in or what's in the variables and stuff. So you don't have to put in a bunch of print statements to print out the variables. You can just, let's say we have x equals 16. It's better to just show it. See, you can just print out the variable very easily. And it's much more convenient than a Python script, for example, or regular code. So that's what we're going to be using. In the future, I'm going to be creating these Colab notebooks, and I'm going to be sharing them in the Discord. And it's going to be on view only. So what you can do is you go to File, and you can make a copy of it or download it. And then you can open it in Colab or in Jupyter if you have it or if you know what that is. and you can modify it and run it on your own. Any questions here? Oh yeah, Udemy is cool too. I would prefer to give up free resources though. So any questions? No? All right. Let me go to the next tool that we're going to be using. It's called Kaggle. It is basically a data science competition website, but it has the notebook software that we use in Colab. So you can create your own notebooks here in Kaggle. But the most important part of Kaggle is the data sets. You can get really nice data here. I'll show you. Evolution of Rubik's Cube solve times, COVID-19 stock data. And it's really convenient because the data in Kaggle, most of these data sets are already processed by the people that post them up here. So it's less work for us. And I'll show you the competitions as well. In these competitions, you can actually submit code and be on a leaderboard. These people that have 100% accuracy, they're cheating, so don't pay attention to that. But for the legit competitions, there's actually a lot of prize money going around. So if you're interested, you can browse around Kaggle. I'll post a link in the Discord after this. You can get used to it, look around. If you want to get more into data science, Kaggle even has their own courses here for free. So make sure to take a look at these. They'll even teach you Python. And we're going to be using this for our competitions, which I'm going to be talking about on the next slide, right? So competitions. So we are going to be doing the Kaggle competitions, like the beginner ones. Like maybe not Titanic, but house prices, absolutely. Digit recognizer, absolutely. We're going to be doing that. And we're going to have a little bit of competition in this community. So here are the rules. We're going to have a leaderboard and attendance to a developer community meeting, like you guys are right now, is 5 points. And for these Kaggle competitions that we're going to do, there's going to be a couple tiers here. First, second, third, 20, 15, and 10 points respectively, and participation 5 points. And whoever has the most points in the end, maybe we'll look at the top 5 people with the most points. We'll get swag, recognition, Discord rules to brag, and maybe even money. Depends on how many people participate. If there's like, I'd say 20 people participating in these Kaggle competitions, I'll put in, let's say $200 as a prize pool. Yeah, we're not like the other developer communities here at GDSC. Pythoneers, we have money. All right. Questions? Questions on the tools or on the competitions?
If I could do a Kaggle competition in Java, do I get a little extra money, or like what extra prize do I get?
Actually, I want to one up that. Like, what if I write it in assembly?
If you assembly,
Yes.
I
Or
think
C?
I mean, you can do it. You can definitely do it in Java and C, but you're gonna have to put in a little bit of effort. But I'm not gonna favor you just because you use another language, okay? So even if you put in that extra effort, I'm not I'm not gonna give you extra points. Sorry, that's just how it goes. What if I do it by plugging in and plugging out a copper wire to an outlet? Yo, man, if you can do it by that, make a research paper and get Google to hire you immediately. Like, seriously. I'm not even joking. All right, any other questions? Don't be shy. I don't bite. Any other questions regarding, oops, tools? Any of the tools? Do you want me to go into more depth into any of them? Let me know. Oof.
So I wanted to ask kind of like how the Kaggle so we'll be having Kaggle competitions, right? Or so do we have to do like a certain amount of Kaggle before like each meeting, or I'm sorry, how does it work again?
All right, so at the end of a developer student community meeting, like this one, right, for the next one, I'm going to announce the competition. And then the way you submit it to me is you do the notebook on Kaggle. Hold on, you would create a notebook on Kaggle. You can either, or you can do it on Google Colab, whichever you prefer. Because you can upload your Google Colab notebooks into Kaggle. You can create a Kaggle notebook and start working on a competition. Let's say I say we're going to be doing the Titanic competition. And you would submit your notebook with your AI model to be evaluated by Kaggle. And then you would take a screenshot of your submission and put it in the Discord, along with a link to your notebook. And that will count as a submission to our competition.
Okay. Okay.
And I would be keeping track of your scores. And at the end, I'll give out the points accordingly.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions?
Will there be any participation prizes?
Participation prizes? Depends on how much you've been participating. If you've been participating in all the meetings, of course there will be. You'll probably accumulate a decent amount of points. If you participate in the Kaggle competition and you attend the meetings, I think that's a sizable amount of points. So you could probably be top 10. So you definitely get some swag or recognition, maybe even Discord roles. But maybe you'd probably be out of the money though if we do that. Did that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Any other? Can we use any AI library or only TensorFlow? Yeah, you can use PyTorch or scikit-learn or whatever you want. I'm going to be focusing more on TensorFlow because that's the most popular one and the most embedded in the industry, I mean. So you'll definitely get more out of learning TensorFlow than the other ones. Do you understand? All right. Any other questions? All right. There are none. I'll keep going. So here's where I go into a little bit of a conceptual definition of AI. So the definition is a bit controversial right now. So a lot of people that don't know about what actually goes on in AI would say, oh yeah, it's computers and we're trying to make them do human intelligence type of stuff. And the reality is it's just a bunch of hyped up math, basically. And the industry is nowhere near the capability of making a computer think like a human. So a definition for our purposes, in order to simplify it for you guys, it's the ability of a digital machine to improve its decision making by training itself on data. So imagine a machine that doesn't know jack, and it's trying to predict whether someone will throw rock, paper, or scissors. After a million games of rock, paper, scissors, and seeing the results of these rock, paper, scissors matches, it'll be the AI will be trained to recognize whether someone will throw rock, paper, or scissors. So that's kind of the gist of it. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on how that works. So any questions on this definition? Any researchers here that want to argue with me about this definition? All right. If there are none, I'll keep going. So humans versus AI. Let me talk about our logic. So the data we're fed in through our sensory data, touch, smell, what we see, what we taste. So let's say some type of data is a cat video on YouTube where the cat has a funny dress on, like a tutu and stuff, maybe even bunny ears. So our rules, what we know to do is associate animals with being cute. So in the result of that is us going, "Aw," as we look at the video. So that's our logic, and that's kind of how we code nowadays. When we're not talking about AI, we have this data, we use that data in our code, we do something with the data, then we get a result. But that's not how AI works. This is how AI works. So in AI, you actually feed in the data and the result together. This is called supervised learning. And don't worry about the other types of learning because we're not going to talk about them in this semester. So supervised learning, we're basically telling the AI, here's the data and here's the result. And what we want our AI to do is find out what's the correlation between this data and this result. And then be able to use those rules that come out of that training to find the results of other data that the AI doesn't know about. Let me know if you need me to explain that again.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So in this case, the AI is recognizing the pixels, I guess, on a screen and trying to correlate it with the results, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We got a genius up in here. All right. Any other questions? All right. If you guys don't have questions, it's going to be a pretty short developer community meeting. Are you sure you don't want me to explain this again? You don't even have to say it out loud. Just say it in the chat. Okay. I'll keep going then. So sneak peek.
Okay, I want to ask the question, but
Yeah, what's up?
is there a difference between? So is there a difference between like logic for the AI and logic by humans? Which is that humans actually put it there first before, how to say, before humans actually think about it, actually think of it, or it's like we have to wait for it, or we have to wait for AI basically.
So this question is kind of philosophical, and the answer to that is we understand AI probably a little bit more than we understand the human mind. That's probably why we haven't made an intelligent AI yet. And in terms of logic, humans, we have our brains, and our brains have different parts of it that do different functions. And that can't really be emulated that much in AI. It's especially in the scope of what we're trying to do.
I might say intelligent AI is an oxymoron. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
all
think
right,
it can be created. I can't say that can't exist, but let me just go.
Yeah, you're cutting off. Yeah, so piggybacking off that, yeah, AIs are pretty dumb. Don't expect some crazy stuff this semester. So we're probably gonna be looking at some kind of crazy stuff, but it's more cool crazy and not incredible crazy, groundbreaking crazy. All right. All right. Any other questions?
The rules that are presented here are for how the AI generates its own like output or result of what it's made to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what the AI is doing here, it's learning the correlation of the data and the result, and making the rule. Basically, the correlation is the rule. And after this training, or this training phase, as we call it, we can evaluate it on other data that the AI has never seen before. Let's say we fed it all with cat videos of cats with tutus. So now that we have this correlation of cat in dress in a YouTube video and and that animals equals cute, or cat in tutu equals cute, let's give it a video of a cat with bunny ears and see if with this rule that the AI learned, it'll still give the result
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. All right, thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, any other questions? If I make DL, deep learning reinforced RNN, recurrent neural network, FFNN neural network, then I can win the stock market by just giving it large amounts of data, right? It's a little bit more complicated than that. So the stock market is time series data, which means that it's data across a lot of time. And even if you feed it all that data, it doesn't mean you'll have an AI that can predict what the stock prices will be. Because even if the AI can try to guess it, like there's some events outside of the data that the AI doesn't know about that can really mess up your AI. So I wouldn't trust any AI that that is trained on only the stock market data. But let's say it's trained, let's say there's multiple AIs and each has a little bit of contribution. That's called as an ensemble of AIs, like an orchestra. And let's say one of the AIs is trained on the stock market data, just the numbers across the years. Another AI is trained on the events that happened during that time as well. And let's say we can have the AI that's from the stock market be a neural network. Let's have the AI that looks at the events that happened during those times. Let's have that be a natural language processing AI. Let's say like a transformer. And maybe, I don't know what else. Maybe a seasonal AI that correlates the season, like spring, fall, autumn, spring, fall, winter, summer, to the stock market times. Then maybe you can get a really good stock market watcher AI or whatever, or predictor. So yeah, it is possible, but it's a little bit more complicated than just feeding it stock market data. All right, any more comments, questions? As you've heard, there's a lot of things you can do with AI, and this is just the beginning of your journey, don't worry. So let's give you guys a sneak peek of what's going to happen next developer community meeting. We're going to talk about data. What is it? Why is it important? Why do some people say data instead of data? Pandas. This is going to be a Python library that's used to manage that data, make it real organized, nice to read. And we're going to do our hello world of AI. Don't worry, it's not going to be complicated. I'll have a collab notebook so you guys can copy it and run it yourself, maybe even modify it, play around with it a little. And then we're going to have our first Kaggle competition. So the way that's going to work in the meeting, I'm going to be presenting you guys with a notebook I've already made for the competition. It's going to be a very simple notebook with some preliminary steps already done. And then you guys will build on top of that notebook and submit your own answers. And then you'll do what I said with the screenshot and the link to your notebook. Yes, ma'am. So at this point, are there any questions regarding anything?
I had a quick question. So how is this different from machine learning? Like, I guess the AI format.
So AI is, let's say AI is the big daddy and machine learning is a part of it. Reinforcement learning is a part of it. Deep learning is a part of it. It's just a very broad term. So when I say AI, I also talk about machine learning.
Right. Okay, cool.
All right. Any other questions? Let me see the chat. Anything we can do for the next meeting? Absolutely. So let me drop this link in the Discord chat for you guys. can watch the first few videos of this playlist I sent in the chat right now, and you'll have a very good foundation for next developer community meeting. So AI is like an umbrella term, basically. Is data science the same thing? So there's like a couple of AI jobs, I would say. There's data scientists, data analysts, machine learning engineer. Oof. I can't even remember the other ones, but there's a couple of branches, and they all have to do with this AI pipeline in these companies. And some of the jobs are only in certain parts of this pipeline. So let me put out word. Let's say we have this pipeline here. And this pipeline consists of 3 steps, maybe even a 4th step. Let me put it here. Let's say data analyst is over here. And this is the data part. Oops. Data. This is all working with the data. Collecting it, making sure it's clean, reliable. This is working with the model, making the AI model that's going to be learning these correlations I talked about between the data and the results. There's going to be some evaluation people, or you can also say this is the testing or verification. This is where most of the jobs are. This is where a lot of the automation stuff is happening, where they're testing the model that's being made. They're trying to see if there's any bias in it. Like, I know a very popular bias that's going around is that there was this AI that was basically segregating people based on their background. And people were saying that it was racist or whatever. It was a mess. So yeah, this is definitely very important. And then there's people that are in charge of maintenance, automation, and cloud. Because a lot of cloud technology is involved in AI nowadays. Oops. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. Automation and cloud there. So some of the cloud technologies being used is Google Cloud. That's what I'm going to be using way later, where I'm going to be introducing you guys to Google Cloud and how to upload or deploy your AI model. And another one is Microsoft Azure, but we don't talk about that one. Oh, right, attendance. Sorry, guys. Hold on, let me, Natalia, can you put in the attendance sheet? Right, you guys don't want to leave without getting your points, right? Yeah, Daniel's right. There's a lot of stats in AI as well. Yeah, she'll shortly put it in the chat, don't worry. And this is probably where you can find the machine learning engineers. This is where, let's say, maybe the data science are here, but there's more DevOps stuff as well. And for this are the cloud engineers. I know there's also some what's it called? I forgot the term. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this pipeline. There's a lot more jobs in each of the fields or in each of the phases of these pipelines. You guys will get a chance to see what they do in each of these phases. The Airtable for the attendance is in the chat. So if you want those points, go ahead and fill that out. All right, can someone remind me what I was going to put in the chat? I think I was going to put the link to Kaggle. So put something here. Put the link to Kaggle. You guys can start making an account there, or just use your Google account. There's also some YouTube tutorials on Google Colab. If you guys are into that, it's kind of interesting the stuff you can do in Google Colab. It's very intuitive. All right, thank you, Ale. Have a nice day. All right. Before I end the meeting, are there any other questions? Is there a time limit for Kaggle? So once I announce the Kaggle competition, one of the developer community meetings, you're gonna have 2 weeks until the next community meeting to submit your stuff. So I'm going to be compiling everyone's stuff by that other meeting. So that's basically your time limit. But I wouldn't do it, hold it off for the last minute if I were you. All right, any other questions? All right, I guess I'll stop the recording.